Hey guys, Brent. Welcome to the Share Inspire Create Live number 85. And I'd love for you guys to comment. I'm seeing the comments coming already. I might switch over. I'm just checking on my phone here to make sure that I'm actually got some footage coming through. I'll go to my camera one here so you can see me live there. There we go, guys. Just so you comment that you can hear me loud and clear, and then where you're from. That'd be great. I'm seeing the comments. I've got a side screen over here, a bigger side screen this time. Hello from Toronto. Yay, Robert, Richard, Allison from Permont. I think that's near Sydney. Judy from Canberra. Russell from Utah, USA. Great. Captain Jim, South Coast, Massachusetts. Gina from California. Hey, welcome, guys. Hey, Darlene's here. Yay, Darlene. I'm going to be talking about the webinar we did. Cherie, great. David, yes, so lots. Canada, Darlene's from Edmonton, Canada, just so that you guys know. Awesome, guys. Well, let's get into it. Let me see if I can go to my presentation here. So how this works is if you ask a question, if you comment below this YouTube video, it takes about 2 minutes for me to see it, or at least a minute for me to see it before I can actually respond. So ask questions as we go along in this presentation, and then I'll answer them as soon as I can. Also, right at the end, I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. So what I'm going to do in this presentation, it's the Share, Inspire, Create Show Live. So what I do is I share something cool with you guys, inspire you with a few images, and then we go into the create section where I teach you something. I'm going to actually take that night shot, the Milky Way shot. I'm going to show you how I created it, and then we're going to edit that in Lightroom. And I'm also going to go through some of the BootCamp members, the standout images from this month's BootCamp challenge. If you're not part of BootCamp, click the link below this video. You can jump in, and we'd love to see you there. Awesome. So let's get into the share bit. I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of comments coming through, so that's great. Jean-Claude from Montreal, Canada. Hey, welcome. Gregory from Manitoba, Canada. Oh, quite a few from Canada. Sid from California, Canada. Yes. New South Wales. Yes. Excellent. Perfect. All right. So the first thing to share, just a few things that have been happening in my life and in photography in general that might be entertaining to you guys. And sorry, it is a little bit cold. I am outside. We may have dogs barking. We may have someone running their whippersnipper or doing some construction. Last time I did it, we had the pickup, the trash pickup in the background. So I do apologize. I am using a mic that shouldn't pick up a lot of the outside noise, but I can hear the birds behind me. And it is one of the last days of winter, so I'm still rugged up, and hopefully soon it'll be next month when I do this, it'll be nice and warm around my birthday, the end of the month. Okay, Cherie, great. She's from the Cayman Islands, I believe. Russell, yes, he's got a few questions here. So, okay, firstly, my postie adventure. So I've started them again. I finished off the Imagine postie series, so check out, there's a link below this video where you can go to my postie adventure YouTube channel and you can have a look at my postie adventures. It's where I drive around on my little postie bike, because my last name's Mail, so I'm the mailman, the postman, the postie. So and I tell people stories. This one, I just posted it last night, so a few hours ago. Postie 11 is where I finish shaping my surfboards, my second and third surfboards ever. So I'm pretty useless at shaping surfboards, but I really love it. Check it out when you get a chance after this video. And I introduce you to my friend Timmy. And that's the first share one. The other one is the BootCamp magazine. There's a link below this video too where you can check out the magazine. We just posted that a week ago or so. It was called Seasonal Vibes, and that's the cover image. And it's a really cool one. So recently, a week or so ago, I did a webinar with Darlene, who's actually on this call. Great. Thanks for joining us, darling. And we called it 8 Landscape Mistakes to Avoid and Tips on How to Solve Them. So it was a great webinar, about an hour, 2 hours actually, because it went for over an hour and then we answered questions for the next hour. So I'm sure darling's going to have a link. If you didn't get to this webinar, I'm sure you'll have a chance to see another version of it, the recorded version, which we'll have up shortly. So if you missed it, there's some really good stuff in there. And we'll put something up there. So here's just an example of something I put in there. The poor depth of field, I think I shot this at f2.8. So you can see it's too blurry. And then the next one I shot at f16 or f8 or something. I changed the aperture, made the aperture small, and you can see the depth of field changes. So there's just one of the tips out of the 8 mistakes I've made. And it was a lot of fun actually going over maybe 6 or 8 years of landscape images and trying to find things, the common mistakes that I've seen people make and the ones that I've made in the past. It's difficult because I delete all the crap photos, right? You try to. And I had to find the ones that weren't so good. So I had to really dig. It probably took me a good 2 or 3 days of just digging through my old images. But I get such a great feeling when you actually go and you explore these images and you remember how you felt when you took every single image. I do, at least. And that's what's great about photography. It's not so much the great photos, it's how you feel when you took those photos. And then when you look at the photos, it's that memory of that emotion you had when you took those photos. And I think that's why I love photography. So great webinar. I wanted to show you this image because it's in the equipment section where we spoke about people often have too much equipment. You're bloated with equipment. You can't carry it all because you've got too much stuff. When you get into little airplanes, when you're flying around, if you're going on safari, it's difficult. You've got to pay excess luggage costs. You know, you've got like thousands of dollars worth of equipment, so you're worried about the stuff getting stolen. This is the bare minimum I think you need for landscape photography. So a tripod, a camera body, and then 2 lenses, a wide angle lens. So I've got a 17 to 40 mil lens on a full frame sensor camera, pretty much what I got behind me here. And then my 70 to 200 f4 lens, which I use for details and zooming in. And then a circular polarizing filter, a couple of batteries, memory cards, a camera bag. And that's really all you need. And then the rest you need is up here. Some skills, right? Spend the rest of your money on actually learning photography and going out and practicing photography. That's what I recommend you do. So I ran with this setup, 2 lenses and 1 camera body, a couple of filters and batteries and stuff, and a tripod and a camera bag, probably for the first 2, maybe 2.5 years as being a pro photographer. I shot weddings. Oh yeah, I had a flash too because I was shooting weddings. So shot weddings, landscapes. I published a book with just this gear. Can you believe it? Until I started getting more gear and focusing on different things like portraits and weddings and other things, then getting all my studio gear and that stuff. But really, this is the bare minimum. You can get away with just those 2 lenses, a wide angle, a telephoto, a camera body, and a tripod, and a few other little bits and pieces. So I wanted to share that with you guys. I also want to share, I've just recorded a few days ago, we've recorded a new postie adventure, which will be coming out probably in a month, where I took my little postie bike over here and I went on the sand dunes with my friend Harlan. Him and I were on this adventure, and also had a backup team. I had my son filming us. I had my friend Kyle driving the backup car, and he actually took all these photos, so that's great. So here we are, just letting down our tires, ready to go on the sand. It was a great adventure. Actually, my body still feels broken from going down there. So we went to this little place called Tin City. It's on these sand dunes. We've got these massive sand dunes where I live. They're really difficult to get to. You can only really go at low tide to get to this place. It's these old shacks from World War II, really, that are on these, like, squatters that have built these shacks on these sand dunes. So it's a unique place, and they've allowed people to stay there. It's run by national parks. Well, national parks, it's in a national park, and they lease these shacks back to the people who started them up. So there's only 9. There used to be, 11. There used to be 13. There's only 11 now. One got burnt down and one got covered by sand. I don't think I can find it. And I wanted to go there to photograph that Milky Way shot. Here's the old timer, Elwin, he's like the caretaker of the place, and we interviewed him in this postie adventure. He's got some really interesting stories, and it's going to be a really cool one. And that leads back to the image I took. So here I am actually making dinner for everyone on the back of my postie bike in the cold. That's my son filming. There are the shacks in the background, and we're waiting for it to get dark so I could go and photograph. But a lot of things had to come together to do this postie adventure. It needed to be a new moon. We needed low tide, so we could actually get down there in the daylight and get back at low tide or semi-low tide. And there needed to be no wind. And and my friends, Harlan and Kyle, had to be free so we could do it. So a lot happened to get this done. So I'm so glad it's done, and I really want to share it with you. So we'll jump into the Inspire section. I might just quickly look at some of the comments over here. If you guys have any questions. There, Russell Shaw. Sorry, there's dogs barking in the background. Yeah. Russell Shaw asks, there's two things I've never been able to photograph, fireworks and stars. Do you use the same techniques to photograph both? Russell, not exactly, because stars are a lot dimmer, a lot less light coming out of stars than there are fireworks. So with stars, I'll tell you how I photograph the stars soon. But with fireworks, you've got to play with your shutter speed. Yes, you shoot in manual. I haven't photographed fireworks in a long time. I've got to think back. But you're pretty much working on the shutter speed. Yeah, you'd probably shoot at a longer shutter speed, maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Depends on how much of the fireworks you want to include in one shot. Or you may even combine images together. But maybe I'll do a fireworks tutorial one day when I actually go shoot fireworks again. So that's a great question. Yeah, guys, put your questions in there and I'll jump in and answer them throughout. So yes, on the images I got on this postie adventure, we're going to use the one on the right. I know my head's in front of it, but that's the one I'm going to edit today and show you how I photographed that. And my son even photographed one. Here's one that he took with the with my 24mm lens and my Canon 5D, which is the one behind me here, the camera behind me. But I'll get into that in a minute. And I wanted to share this is one of the images from the landscape mistakes webinar I did with Darlene. And here's where I broke the rules, and I thought this would inspire you because it inspires me, this image. It's an image I shot of a wave breaking, and what I did was I broke the rules of when it comes to having a fast enough shutter speed for your focal length of your lens. So I'm shooting with, I can't remember, maybe a 200mm lens, but I'm probably shooting at about a fifth of a second or something really slow, and I'm moving the camera. But you can break the rules, and you can still create amazing images. I love that one because of that early morning light catching that wave breaking. And then this will lead into the last bit, the last part of this live session where I talk about the current BootCamp Masterclass and Challenge, and I'm talking about simple pleasures here. So this is one of my simple pleasures, and I thought this image would inspire you. I went out to my favorite camping spot and I photographed one of my simple pleasures, which is sitting around a campfire in the wilderness, waiting for my dingoes to come and visit me. And this is totally illuminated just by that fire. And if you actually zoom into this image, which I can't right now, there's you can see the stars in the blue sky in the background, and there's a sand dune in the background over there. So cool. I'll just check my. Yep, I'm just making sure everything's working. Looks good. Looks like I'm still transmitting, which is great. All right, so I'll answer those questions in a minute, but I'll get through this section first. And this is also part of my Simple Pleasures video and masterclass that I do for my bootcamp members every month. This is me watching the sunrise, another one of the simple pleasures. And the reason I've done this masterclass at this time with the pandemic and everything is because we often forget to focus on little things that give us a lot of joy. And if you focus on a lot of little things that give you a little bit of joy, you can actually be quite happy throughout the day, even with all the drama that's happening in the world right now. Another one of my simple pleasures is skateboarding, which I'm not very good at. I've been doing it for about 2.5 years now. I started with my son, and I've had many falls and injuries and stuff. Here I'm photographing myself skateboarding. If you look at my hand right at the top of this image, I've actually got a remote control in there, and I'm firing my camera as I do this maneuver. And I don't think I landed this one. Probably didn't. Probably fell off. But I shot it at a shutter speed where I could somewhat get my face and body still sharp, but I wanted my skateboard blurred so it shows movement. So there we go. So awesome. We're going to get into the create section now. I'm going to show you how I created this image, and the dogs are going berserk behind me. Hopefully it's not causing too much audio problems for you guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think so far. Can you hear me okay? I'll just have my tea, have your wine or beer, or wherever you are in the world. If you're in America, which northern hemisphere, I'm sure you guys are hot right now and enjoying the end of summer. But I'd love to know. Just comment below and let me know how things are going, and I'll check. So these dogs. Sounds good. Oh, okay, good. You're not hearing, Gene, you're not hearing too many of the dogs in the background. Irritating. These dogs sit on the balcony. Their owner's a chef and he's at work, and the balcony's got these glass windows, and they just look down, and anything moves, they just start barking like crazy. It's irritating as hell. Anyway, back to that. It's not one of my simple pleasures. Yeah. Gene says he's used to it. Okay, so Cess Crafts asks, what lens would you recommend to shoot the moon on a full frame camera, like a Canon RP? The moon. So you want a long lens to shoot the moon. So I've shot the moon with my 100 to 400 mil lens, and so that you can get really close. I would even recommend a 600 mil lens. The problem is the moon moves quite fast when you've focused in on a 600 mil lens on a tripod. So you need to shoot at a relatively fast shutter speed. You can't shoot it, like, I don't think you can do a 30-second exposure because you probably get blurring in the moon moving. So you might need a 10-second, 5-second, 30th of a second exposure. I've shot the moon before. I'll have to look at those images to remember. But I'll wait for the full moon and I'll shoot with my 600 mil lens, and we'll see. I'll be able to let you guys know. The audio's fine. Okay, great. Dogs aren't too loud. Great. Elizabeth says, okay. Cherie says she just had a tropical storm blow by and a lot of wind and rain. Yeah, those are those two tropical storms that are about to hit the US, or they're hitting the US today. So stay safe, everyone. It's 2020, right? 2 tropical storms at the same time, worldwide pandemic, economy gone to crap. Yeah, okay, it's one of those. And I think we've got an asteroid heading towards Earth now. Audio's fine. Karen, hey Karen. Karen came on my BootCamp safari to Africa last year, which we had to postpone this year till next year. And I've still got a couple of spots, so if anyone's interested, let me know. Oh yeah, so she's got a possible storm brewing too. Wow. Dogs are fine. Oh yeah. She's got a bark also. And Cherie, yeah. Okay, she's laughing at Karen. Okay, good. All right, so let's get into the edit section where I'm going to edit this image and talk about how I shot it. And then after that, I'll take questions, and then we'll run through the standout bootcamp images from this month's bootcamp challenge. So, all right. So let's see if my Lightroom will start up. I'm going to go to my desktop view over here, and I'm just going to move this across to here. Okay, and I'm going to fire up Lightroom, and we'll see if it actually fires up okay. Maybe what I'll do here as well, that's firing up. Cool. Okay, there we go. Now, Lightroom sometimes hogs down my computer, so just give it a minute. I might go back to my camera. So while Lightroom's firing up, I hope it's firing. Yes, it is. Okay. I'm going to show you what you need. what do you need to go and photograph an image like that? Okay, so firstly, when it comes to the camera equipment, you need a wide angle lens. So I was shooting at about 17 mil on a full frame sensor camera. If you've got a full frame camera, it's better because you're shooting at a very high ISO, which means less noise on a full frame sensor camera. If otherwise, you've got like a lot of noise reduction to do in post. So I'd recommend a full frame sensor camera, a wide angle lens, a very sturdy tripod. Okay. Because you're shooting at 20 seconds or 30-second exposures. And a couple of other things. I'll put this back on there. A couple other things you may need. A head torch or a flashlight, as you guys call it in America. Okay. I got this one because it's got a red light on it, which means I don't get night blindness when I'm when you flash a bright white light in your eyes and it takes about 30 seconds to be able to see in the dark again. So I like it because it's got that little red light on the end, but it's also got a white light so I can see what's going on. So once your eyes adjust to the darkness, you can, with this red light, you can pretty much see the back of your camera. You can adjust everything in the dark. So that's something I recommend you guys get, or if you've got one. Other torches, other flashlights. Whoops, that one's not working. Here's one. Here's the one that I gave to Harlan and Kyle to light paint my building. So I got them to go up to the side of the building and actually light paint the building. And these things, quite important, walkie-talkies, some way to communicate with the person light painting, because they might be quite far away from you. Okay, so that's when it comes to the equipment, and obviously warm clothing, stay safe. If it's winter, you don't want to be, if you need water in summer, that type of thing. Just remember to stay safe if you can. Never risk your life for an image. It's not worth it. Okay, great. So hopefully you guys can see this. I've got Lightroom open, and here's the image. I might go back to the grid mode, G. I just type in G and it goes back to grid mode. Yeah, I'm in the develop module there. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but that way I remember things. G for grid. So let's see. I'll scroll up a little bit here to show you some of the images. Gee, this Lightroom is taking a while. Okay, so you can see we got there a bit earlier, and these buildings are, and it was blowing like hell earlier. So I'll pull up a few of these buildings just to show you what they look like so you can get an idea. Yeah, it takes forever. Okay, you'll have to have patience, guys, sorry. Okay. I'm going back to grid mode, that's taking too long. Okay, I think the only thing I'm able to do here is actually edit that image, so let's go back to it. I did go back another night to see if I could get some better shots, but I don't think I can beat this one for a couple of reasons, and I'll go into it now. So let's go in the develop module here. And I'm going to go to the before shot. Okay, as it loads up here, I'll just check the questions to make sure you guys are doing, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, the dogs have stopped barking, which is good, and I'm starting to warm up, which is also good, so I might take my jacket off soon. Okay, so what I like about this image, a couple of things. The Milky Way, so I'm shooting here from north to south, so I'm shooting in a southerly direction, and I like that I've got the sand dune in the foreground, and the light in the sand dune shows all the ripples in the sand dune. It's also hitting the shack that looks like it's almost buried in the sand dune, and then I like the little bit of warmth in the background, and I think that's one of the lights with the shacks in the background. And then I got Newcastle, which is the city close to us, which is about 40 kilometers away, you can see the lights catching those last clouds as the clouds were moving away. So that's what I like about it. Let me show you the before image. So that's the before. That's straight off the camera. Pretty average, right? There we go. So that's the before, and here's the after. Okay, so what did I do to this image to really get it vibrant and cool the way I shot it? So firstly, let's look at the settings I shot at. So I shot at 20 seconds, f4. That's the widest aperture that lens goes to, and ISO is 3200 ISO. Now that's important because there's so little light, you actually need to crank up your ISO. You need to make your sensor very sensitive to light. You open up your aperture as wide as you can, which is the opposite of what you normally do for landscape photos. Normally with landscape photos, you want a very broad depth of field. So you crank down your aperture to f8 to f16, but you can't, or you can, but then you need to crank up the ISO even more, which means more noise. So it's a balance between noise and depth of field. Yeah. So I'd rather have less noise and less depth of field. I'm shooting at infinity on my wide angle lens, so I've pretty much got good depth of field anyway because it's a wide angle lens. So, and then 20 seconds, why not 30 seconds? I was shooting a couple at 30 seconds. The problem is at 30 seconds, because of the rotation of the Earth, sorry all the flat Earth people out there, the Earth is round. As the Earth spins, the stars start to blur, especially on the top of my frame over there. So I went slightly faster. I went to 20 seconds, and that keeps the stars relatively sharp. I'll zoom into the stars and we'll let it sharpen itself there. Relatively sharp. They're not blurring. I'm not getting star trails, and it's in enough light at f4 at 3200 ISO to capture enough detail in the dark sky. Okay, so they're my stars. It's cool. Okay, it's taking forever on my computer. What I think I'll do is I'll zoom back out and I'll just show you what I've done to edit this image. Okay, I have clicked the page, but it's taking a long time. Yep. Okay. Come on. There we go. We'll fit it in again. Okay. Come on. Okay. Come on. Okay. There we go. Great. Okay. Back out. Sorry, guys. My computers really go slow when I'm going live and running Lightroom at the same time. Cherie asks, I've been experimenting with Milky Way photos now for years and still have not got there. This is fabulous. What about stacking them for more clarity? Yes, you can stack images for sure. You can shoot one for the sky and the Milky Way, and then you can shoot one for the foreground and the sand dune in the background, right in the foreground. But I'm lazy. I want to get it all in one shot if I can, which means I need help from my friends light painting this. So Harlan and Kyle were up on the sand dune on the left, and I was talking to them on the walkie-talkie. I'd hit the shutter as it was open for 20 seconds. I'd ask them, okay, guys, shine this torch with the zoom thing where you can focus the light smaller or wider. I'd ask them to paint the building for 3 seconds and then do a sweep back to me on the sand dune for 1 second, which is a lot of fun because every time after 20 seconds, you look at the image on your back of your camera, you're like, yeah, cool, let's try light painting the building for 6 seconds and then sweep back to me for 2 seconds. Let's see if that makes a difference. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to balance the luminosity, the amount of light on the building, on the sand dune, and in the night sky, which is interesting because there's a lot of things happening over here. So that's how I shot it. Okay, let's go to the edit part. So the first thing I did when I was editing this is I just click on the auto tone button over here, And Lightroom does its thing with its artificial intelligence, tries to make it as good as it can go. Okay. Then what I did was actually, let's go back to my history here, and I'll show you what I did. Okay. So we imported it. It's pretty yuck. And then what I did was I did the auto tone, and then I added the graduated filters. Okay, so there's the auto tone, and then I played around with the graduated filters. Now I'll go into that in more detail now, and then I updated the color temperature. So let's just go to my last version here, where I exported it. Here we go. Okay. The graduated filters are important over here. I'm going to show you why. So I've got a graduated filter for the sky, and I've got a graduated filter for the foreground and the sand dune. Okay. Let's see what happens if we turn off the graduated filters, both of them. There we go. I'll turn them on. There we go. See the difference between the graduated filters off and the graduated filters on? So what are they doing? So let's first look at the one on the sky here. So what I did on the sky is I made it slightly more blue, cooled it down a little, and I upped the shadows, I upped the whites, and here's the key. This is the secret, I think. I cranked up the clarity all the way to 100, and I used the dehaze filter just slightly, 12. And I think that's that. I'm going to take the clarity down now to double click on clarity, and we'll see what that does. It just makes the sky not as punchy. See that? Let's crank it all the way up to 100 again and see what that does. It brings all the stars out. Look at the difference there. 0, 100. And then the dehaze filter, I'll go to 0 for the dehaze filter. The clarity is all the way up to 100. You can go too much with the dehaze, and then it just looks weird. So I'm just going to go up to about 12 over there. Or yeah, 12. That's good. So that's what I did to the top, to the sky, to the Milky Way. What did I do to the bottom? To the bottom, I made it warmer, so it's the opposite of the sky. So I've got that contrast between a cool Milky Way and a warm sand dune, and the sand dune is in fact quite yellowish warm. And I upped the shadows a little bit on the sand dune just to lighten it up a bit, so I got a little more light on the sand dune. Okay, and the last thing I did was I used this radial filter on the building. There we go. I used it twice on the building. So there I just warmed up the warm lights in the background a little bit more. And you can see if I hit the O key, it has like a pink overlay. Okay, get rid of that. And yeah, so pretty much all I did with these is I just warmed up the background behind that building a little bit. I wanted the building still cool, a cool blue. So there it is, guys. That's my edit. Ask me any questions while I'm here. They take about a minute or so to get through. But there's the before. The before looks pretty dark, and you look at the foreground, you can barely see that sand dune in the foreground. So looking at this before, I would probably tell Harlan and Kyle to light up the sand dune between me and the shack for maybe another second, or maybe even an extra 2 seconds. The shack looks good. It looks like the proper exposure, and the sky looks as good as I can. I didn't want to. I probably could have shot at 6400 ISO and had more detail in the sky, but then I'm dealing with more noise. Oh, while I'm here, let's go to the noise section in Lightroom, and I want to show you what I did there. Okay, when that comes up, so yeah, ask me any questions and I'll see if I can answer them. Okay, so in the noise section, I did the masking for the sharpening. So you had to hold down Option or Alt and you click on the masking section, and then we'll wait for it to come up. So you'll see my black and white image now. The white areas is where the mask is letting through the sharpening. So it's sharpening the stars and the sand dune in the foreground and the building, but it's not sharpening the noise in the rest of the sky. Okay, so that's what the masking does for the sharpening. And then the noise reduction, I cranked that pretty high because there's quite a lot of noise at 3200 ISO in that blue sky. So I cranked up the color noise reduction and the luminance noise reduction quite a bit to get rid of the noise in that sky. Okay, so that's quite an important part of editing this image. Cool. All right. Darlene says, looks great. Thanks, Darlene. How did you focus on the stars? Oh, okay. Mammy asks, how did I focus on the stars? What I did was, you can't really use autofocus because it's so dark that the camera won't focus on the building. Even when I got Harlan and Kyle shining on the building, I couldn't see it through my viewfinder, and it was and so the camera wouldn't focus on it, at least my camera. Maybe the new mirrorless cameras might be able to do it. So what I needed to do was put my lens into manual focus. So my lens, this old lens, and by the way, this lens is 18 years old and I'm still using it. I've gone through about 10 bodies in that time, or maybe 9 or so. So when you invest in a good lens, you keep it for a long time. So I set mine to manual focus, and on the top of my lens, I don't know if you guys can see this. Oops, here we go. On the top of my lens, it's got these markings. So I set it to infinity, but I'm not sure if that's exactly right, because infinity kind of goes from there to there. So it's got like 1 meter, half a meter, 1 meter infinity on this lens. So what I do is I shoot it where I think it's going to be in focus on infinity, depending on the focal length of your lens. If it's at 17 mils or if I'm zoomed in slightly. And then I'll look at my image, zoom right in on the back of my camera once I've taken the shot, and make sure that it's in focus. So really, it's more that I'm in focus on the building, but you also want to be in focus infinity to the background. So I'm far enough away from the building. Look, if I was closer to that building and I was shooting 1/3 of the way in to my image, the building might be in focus and the Milky Way might be out of focus. So I'm far enough back that everything should be in focus. Well, maybe not the sand dunes right in front of me. That might be out of focus. Actually, let's zoom in a little bit and see. We'll just wait for this to sharpen up a little bit. So pretty much everything should be in focus in this image. There we go. I did notice with my son Wesley, he was shooting with the 24 f2.8 lens, and that was a lot sharper at 2.8 than this one is at f4. So I went back the next night or 2 nights later and I shot with that lens just to see, because I wasn't quite happy with the crispness of this image. I really wanted it to be sharper. So we went back, and I woke up at 4 a.m. and drove down there, not on my postie bike, but drove this time, and I photographed a few more, which are great, but I think I got there too late. We started getting the first light about an hour later. So I'm going to try again, go back again and shoot with that 24 mil f2.8, shoot at 2.8, 3200 ISO, 20 seconds, and see what that looks like. So great question. Cherie says she's got a stupid question. There are no stupid questions, Cherie. Let's go. I'm just going to go back to me here. I'm going to see if I can get my face on this. Oh, there we go. Okay. Are the lenses on, say, the D750 compatible with a full frame body like the D850? That's a Nikon, right? I don't know Nikon. I'm not a Nikon shooter. Is that well, I know that a full frame sensor lenses like this lens, is compatible on a mirrorless camera. You can use it, but there's a crop factor, so you're not using all of the lens. It's slightly zoomed in. I don't think it's the other way around. So a crop factor lens will not fit onto a full frame camera, if that makes sense. Okay, cool. Any other questions, guys? Put them in there. There we go. I only have Lightroom CC. I do nearly everything on my iPad Pro. GD says that. Yep, great, GD. Any post-processing software, doesn't matter. I know Darlene uses, is it the On1 post-processing? It's just a tool. They pretty much all do the same thing. Paul says, yes, the D750 is a full frame. So the full frame lens is compatible on a crop factor camera, yes. Okay, cool. Let's just see if there's any other questions here. Elizabeth says, yes, wow, the graduated filters make a huge difference. Yes, they do. Dave Mueller, Bluey says hi. He also came on my Safari. So Ronald Swat says, how do you get sharp focus on the stars with so little light? I think I've already answered that one. Shoot in with your focus on infinity, and then check your images. Okay, stacking them. Okay, so I think we've understanding. Okay, so there's a lot of comments here. I haven't seen too many more questions. I'll try. If I didn't answer your question, just ask it again in the comments, because I may have lost it. There's quite a few questions in there. All right, cool. So that's I'm just going to shut down Lightroom, so doesn't bog down my computer anymore, and we'll get on to the next section in this presentation. So how are we doing on time? 42 minutes, great. I'm going to try and keep it under an hour, guys. And I know everyone's busy nowadays. Great. Okay, so yes, Katrina Banting says, do you shoot in RAW? Oh, yes, definitely in RAW. If that shot was JPEG, there's no way I could edit it like I've just edited it. There'd be a lot of noise in the sky. I don't think I could pull all the details out of the shadows, the dark areas like I just did. This is the main reason why you need to shoot RAW, because an image like this, you cannot make it pop. It's difficult to make it pop because you're really pushing technology to its extremes over here. Shooting at a really high ISO, a wide open aperture, a long shutter speed. There's all sorts of noise and stuff that gets into that sensor. So yes, shoot RAW. And I'm shooting RAW and JPEG. Pretty much all my landscapes I'm shooting RAW and JPEG. Okay. Tony Checo, I think I recognize you from Denver. I do mountain vistas and waterfalls, but maybe a different Tony. Often high contrast situations with deep shade and bright clouds. How do I keep the bright areas from getting washed out and keep the detail in the shade? So Tony, what you should be doing there, if you're shooting waterfalls are best shot in flat light conditions. So cloudy, rainy, before sunrise and after sunset. That's the best time because you got more even light. Now, if you are shooting mountain vistas in waterfalls when it's bright, sunny, there's a huge dynamic range, and I suggest you shoot high dynamic range images, which is stacking 3 or 5 images together, shooting for the highlights, shooting for the shadows, and then combining them all in Lightroom or some of the software, post-processing software, so you can bring out the detail in the shadows and the detail in the highlights. That's what I recommend you do. Just when you edit them, try to edit them in a natural looking way, because sometimes HDR images can look really weird, really HDR-y, I think if you've seen them, you probably know what I mean. Look unreal. Edit them in a way that looks more real. Look, shadows are fine. Shadows make photographs look 3D. We can't see all the details in the shadows, so why should we be able to show them all the time? That's my take on it. All right, Art. He says this is his first time here. He's from Chicago. Hey, I think your name's Art. Okay. Gina, awesome transformation. Like finding hidden treasure in an otherwise dark image. Yes, that's great. I like that analogy, Gina. Awesome. Elizabeth says, what camera body do I shoot with? I'm shooting with the one that's filming me right now, actually, my 6D. It's a full frame Canon 6D Mark II. I bought it mainly to do video, but I kind of like it because it's got the touchscreen. But it's very much similar to this one, my 5D Mark III, which is an old one, but it still works great. And I'll probably be getting the Canon EOS R soon. Maybe. We'll see. It's not so much the equipment you're using. The lenses are important. Have some good lenses, especially for this kind of photography. You can't really, it's difficult to get away with a cheaper lens when you're pushing your camera equipment to the extremes like this. The camera body is just, it's just there to capture what's coming through the lens. If you got a crap lens, your image won't be that great. So that's my theory on lenses. Spend a little bit more on lenses because look, this lens I've had for 18 years and I'm still using it. It's got little bits chipped off the side here where I've dropped it a few times. It still works though. It's not as sharp as I want it. I'll probably invest in another, when I get the mirrorless Canon full frame, I'll probably get the lens that goes with that, like the same focal length, but maybe I'll get a f2.8 aperture for video and for landscapes. So I'll probably go back to that same image I had earlier where I'll have my 70-200 and my 17-40 or equivalent and get those two lenses again because both those lenses are pretty worn out. My ones are. Okay, great. Okay, do you shoot RAW? Yes. How do you know when you have a good shot before Lightroom or Photoshop? Your histogram, Russell. I check the histogram on my camera because at night, especially when it's that dark and you've got a little LCD bright screen, everything looks really bright when it's pitch black around you, right? Until you get back to your camera and the next day and you're like, oh, everything's underexposed or too dark. Your histogram's the one. Yeah, that's pretty much, but also learn, go out. I learned from the first shoot. I think that's a really good shot and I like it, but I think I can do better. I think I can have it sharper. I think I could probably get my assistant to shine the light a little bit better. Maybe I'll shoot at 6400 ISO next time because the sky was a little dark, probably one stop underexposed because I did have to crank things up a little bit. So learn from that. Okay, Rob says great presentation so far. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to get into the questions. So ask questions now while I'm running through my favorite standout images in BootCamp for this month's BootCamp challenge, Masterclass and challenge, and it actually ends tomorrow for everyone in America. So get your final images in, guys, and then they'll go into the best ones go into the magazine. So awesome. So here we go. I'll go back to my desktop. Let's bring up my the live stuff here, and I'll show you some of the standout images. And it looks like my Lightroom crashed for some reason. But I'm still alive. You guys can still hear me. That's always good. And for some reason, oh, here we go. Here we go. Cool. All right. So simple pleasures. Some of the standout images are these ones here. So let's see if I can pull these up. Awesome. And I'll just there we go. So you guys can see that good. Yep. That's good. Okay, maybe I'll... I wonder if I can run through a slideshow here. Okay, anyway. So this one by Anthony Cadden. Love this shot. One of his simple pleasures is going out and shooting low-key photography, just like we had a challenge a couple months ago. That's a awesome image. A wildlife, low-key, side-lit pelican. I got pelican right this time, guys. That's a great shot. This one, Belinda Swan. Love this image. She's looking forward to summer, but this is photographing one of her, I think this is her daughter, or maybe her granddaughter, running through the fields. Actually really like this because of the low angle, and she's looking up, looking out of your image, so you kind of follow her eyes forward like that. Really love that shot. I'm going to give some more light to my screen over here. Bruce Patterson, one of his simple pleasures, I wonder if you can guess, pasta. I believe that's pasta and a glass of red. Yeah, one of my simple pleasures is a glass of red too. That's a great one, Bruce. Dave Coe, love the shot, Dave. One of his simple pleasures is music, and I like how you photographed this model with that soft porcelain skin, great lighting, beautiful image. Well done, man. You're smashing it, hey. George, simple pleasures. This is great, and George was talking about how he uses a extension tube on his lens to go from a normal lens to a macro lens. It's a great way. If you don't have a macro lens, just get a cheap extension tube and you can turn any lens into a macro lens. If you guys want to know more about that, I can probably do a little tutorial on that. Kathleen Feely, she just posted this. One of my simple pleasures too, the water. I get into the water every day, even when it's cold here in winter. I've got to, I don't know, there's something resetting about being in the ocean every day for me. Kerry Clark, great image. One of her simple pleasures, her garden, and love the shot. I think this would make a great black and white image too, Kerry. Laura Griffiths from South Africa. Love that. I think what makes this image so good is the colors. We got the greens and the reds, the opposite on the color wheel, right? And just beautiful. The contrasty colors, the background, the way you've framed, the way you've moved around and got this. I think it's an aloe, is it? Aloe plant with the background, just beautiful. Layla, this is her grandson. She's looking back at some images. One of her simple pleasures is watching her grandson just having fun. And I like how the reflection of her grandson is on that glass at this model train set. So awesome. Nick Ellis, selfie. I like this, Nick. I'm glad you've had the courage to post this of yourself doing macro. Oops, Lightroom's not liking me. Hey, don't send. I don't want to send reports to Lightroom. Okay, so Nick, great one. Doing what you love, photographing. I was hoping more people would do selfie shots so I could see what everyone looks like. Paul, PT Lombard, Paul. Beautiful shot of a hummingbird. Wow. Yes, birds can be one of our simple pleasures. Just seeing life out there and the way they fly and they hover. I photographed them the last time I was in Denver area in the mountains. Just beautiful. Peter Brody, he's got a selfie shot here working at Animal Hospital in a tropical cyclone storm, and this is afterwards and the COVID thing. He says that his umbrella represents the rainbow at the end of the storm. I like that one. Great. And he just missed getting hit by some branches, which is, I'm glad you didn't get hit by them. Rihanna from the Melbourne area, the Victoria, which is now in lockdown. Yeah, you guys are doing it tough like everyone in the world. They've just had another outbreak. Anyway, she got down and photographed this before they went into lockdown. So the Mornington Peninsula, I think this is a sunrise, can't remember, sunset, beautiful image. Yes, simple pleasure, just watching the sunrise or the sunset is one of our simple pleasures. Richard playing piano, one of his simple pleasures. I'm trying to play guitar again, still struggling a little bit. Rami, he does some amazing stuff. I think it's an orchid. He's done this as black and white too, so amazing images. Love it, Sarah. I like this one, Sarah, because one of your simple pleasures is to have a coldie. I don't know if that's beer or not. I'm assuming it is, and read a book out on your patio. So yes, there's a lot of things we can be thankful for. And Valerie, the last one, hummingbirds again in a feeder. So love that, captured that. So I know there's some great other images there, guys. I only got time for that. I know we're running out of time. I'm going to check the questions now and then we'll sign off. So if you're not part of BootCamp, consider joining us. We'd love for you to join us. Only take a few people at a time, because we've got a really cool community there. Everyone's positive and encouraging inside BootCamp. Ask any of the members right now that are on the chat. And we'd love to have you join us. And what I do is every month I create a masterclass and a challenge. I teach you how to do it, and then everyone goes out and shoots, and then we comment on each other's images. So awesome. There we go. And I'll just go back to my, I'll answer the questions now. All right. So I'll shoot up here. Quite a few questions right at the end here. Good show. Okay, there. Great presentation. Okay. Stephen asks, is there a processing technique to change ordinary water into looking like long exposure? Not sure, Stephen. I know you can do it with an iPhone if you shoot multiple images and it kind of stacks them together and it looks like milky, but why not just get a neutral density filter and just shoot with a half a second exposure? And it's really cool. Filters kind of changed it for me. When I lived in the Colorado Rockies, I'd go up and shoot waterfalls and streams, and I always come back disappointed. This is in the film days, right? We had to send film off, and we got it back a week later, and I'm like, crap. And then I invested in my first one was like a 2-stop neutral density filter, and it changed everything for me. It allowed me to shoot at a much slower shutter speed in the daylight, and I could shoot at like a third of a second or a quarter second, and that made all the difference. I love photographing water, and I love that milky, flowy look of the water. It looks unreal. It looks magical. So get an ND filter. Get a 3-stop neutral density filter for photographing waterfalls and cascades and that type of thing. I'd be interested in your impressions. Like I said, Sess Craft says, I'd be interested in your impressions of using an EF lens on an EOS R RP when you get it. I've seen too many reviews on this topic. Most reviews I've seen are EOS R using the R lens. So, okay, I'll do that. I'll use my lenses, and because I've got like a dozen or so lenses, I've got tens of thousands worth of lenses now that I've acquired over the years. I'll definitely get a converter and use it, but I'm probably going to get that R lens anyway and replace this one, because this one is a little bit tired. It's 18 years old. It needs a break. Tony, that's someone's commenting on Tony Checo. Consider getting several variable ND filters will darken bright areas. Yes, you can do that, Tony. It's just difficult. Tony was talking about photographing waterfalls or mountain peaks on bright sunny days, and you can. I've got variable density filters. Waterfalls are difficult because the water's falling down, and it depends on where the hot spots are, where the sun's coming in and lighting up. If it's just the sun setting and it's a straight line, you can definitely use a variable ND filter. But if you've got these hot spots, it's difficult. That's where you need to shoot HDR 3 to 5 different exposures. Rachel says, Sescross, I'm using an old EF 20 to 35 lens on an RP. Fantastic. Okay, so thanks, Rachel. You've already done that. Oh, so Darlene, this is a different Darlene, says, I'd love to see something on extension tubes. Okay, I'll do something on extension tubes for you guys on how to take a normal lens and make a macro lens out of it by using a cheap extension tube. Okay, so Cherie said, thanks so much, Brent. Yes, great. People talking about lenses, great. Rachel, Russell, so inspiring. Thank you, Brent. And Tony, Checo, thanks for the answer. And Stephen, I was talking about altering an old photo before I had an ND4. Oh, right, okay, Stephen, yes. I'm sure there is. I'll just do a YouTube search on how to do it, and I'm sure you'll find there's plenty of stuff on YouTube. Awesome, guys, that's it. Any more questions? No, I think we've hit an hour. We just have. Wow, I'm getting much better at doing this. I hope the dogs went too loud, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you're watching the recording, please comment below this video and let me know. I do reply to most comments unless they, someone just trying to get clicks or saying not good things. And thank you for everyone who was on this. And now the jets are flying over the Royal Australian Air Force jets, and I think it's just in time to shut down. Judy says thank you, Brent. Darlene says thank you, looking forward to listening again. And Rihanna says thanks, Brent. Awesome, guys, thank you. Catch you later. Bye.